It is.
Sorry.
Oh, there we are. Okay, now we're recording.
It's
Yes.
recording on Facebook as well.
Oh, beautiful. I think it's really interesting as a woman, in terms of reclaiming who we are and coming into the roles that we play. And a lot of our truth that is who we know, the essences of us that are a bit reconditioned at a young age, generationally, through watching cartoons and what's portrayed as to what a woman should be, what love should be, what a mother should be, etc., and the different archetypes. And I wouldn't say it's a bad thing, but when it shapes who you are, you're kind of doing it through a limited lens. So I would say I do embody all those things, because I can be a mother and nourishing and caring and all those things, but I can also be a lover and incredibly in touch with my sensuality and my pleasure and what I need. I can be a CrossFitter and grit my teeth and lift the weights and express my masculine in that perhaps like aggression and that adrenaline. But I can also be incredibly soft and intuitive and formless and creative as a cellist. I would say, the archetype I most identify with would be the warrior. I've got that warrior spirit, and it's such a beautiful thing because it's not really about fighting, but about honor and duty and a noble heart, and commitment to, I suppose, strength, and protection of, for me, integrity. So can I take all those parts of me and step forward and give whatever I can give? Oh yeah, and I'm a healer. So gosh, we forgot that main part. Well, yeah, bring to the world these essences of me with whatever compassion, whatever love I've got in my heart, whatever wisdom, and help raise the vibration. So that's where the healer part of me comes in.
Great. Before we go any further into any of this stuff, can you tell us a little bit more about, you mentioned archetypes and how you see yourself as the warrior. Are there, what are the other archetypes do we have that we might identify with?
Yes. Well, I did mention a few, like mother. And then we've also got the sage, the wise woman. She was just right there. This is why we have to edit it. Oh yes, the wild woman, right? And these are all the feminine. These are all parts of us that aspect. The lover, you think of Venus, and Aphrodite. The queen, the queen, right? She is so regal and rules and leads. And then I'm sure it depends on what kind of psychology you're looking at, because there's Jungian psychology that definitely breaks all that down. I feel like I'm missing one. So if there's someone in the Facebook group that's shouting at the screen, feel free to type it in. And then of course there's the healer. And oh yes, in the male sense, it's the magician. I think in the female sense, it could be like the sorceress or the witch, and she alchemizes things, right? We are all alchemists of our life. So
Great. Okay, we've got a lot. I've got lots of things that I want to ask you about. Let's start with, because this is the one thing that we have well, I think we have more than one thing in common. We definitely do.
Yes. Yes.
CrossFit. Let's start with CrossFit. How did you come across this as a training modality? What does it mean for you to move?
Oh, yes, CrossFit. And by the way, because Nadine is very humble, I should mention to everyone watching and listening that you are how many times you've been to the CrossFit Games?
I've been once as an individual and twice in a team.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I thought, a 3-time CrossFit Games athlete. So my respect to you, and I am in awe. That's so cool. So I should warn everybody that I really do go long story long. So pack a lunch, get some water if you wish. So CrossFit is a really beautiful sport that I didn't think I would be doing, or even knew that much about, or think I could have this sort of physicality, much less after 2 children. And through my pregnancies, much less as a 38-year-old woman, going on 39 now. And you asked how I'd come into it, and that we'll go into this a little bit later, but it was to find a way to bond with my now ex-husband. It was something I'd known about, and I'd heard about how cool it was, and varied and multidisciplinary. And we had just reconciled after separating. And I really wanted us to have an activity that was A, doable by both, B, where it was something we hadn't done before and could encourage each other through, and C, had a health aspect to it. And I mean, it's so interesting because in CrossFit, there are areas where you will be incredibly strong and proficient at. I find even as a woman, and others where the men can dominate, right? With just based on how we're built physiologically, and muscle in a muscular sense, right? And flexible wise, all that kind of stuff. So it was really cool for us to go in and explore this thing together. He left CrossFit due to injury, and later on our marriage. We'll get into that later, everyone. And I'm okay. You can be okay after divorce. I'll tell you that. And I continued on with it, and I did it through 2 pregnancies. So I was off and on, right? There's only so much you can do to clean the barbell around your belly and lift it up. And then you have postpartum recovery, all that kind of stuff. I more seriously went into it the past 2 years, and have focused on the technique and finally RXing.
For those of our listeners or viewers who don't know what RXing is, it means using the recommended weights for particular CrossFit designed workouts.
Yes, as prescribed.
As prescribed, yes. What does it mean for you now doing CrossFit as part of your life and your lifestyle? What does it stand for? What does it mean for you?
Oh, yes. So many different things. One would be, perhaps we'll get back into the warrior spirit, because it is physically taxing, and you do need a mental game going in as well, because you're going to want to give up mid-workout so many times
before you start.
Yeah, during the warm-up. I'm sweating during the warm-up. I'm like, okay, this was good. Fitness. And Yes, there's something about that. I'm also a former competitive swimmer who had Olympic aspirations. So it does tap into that adrenaline and competitiveness as well. Um, and also a community. It's so important. Oh, to have people grinding it out and sweating and working just as hard as you are with wherever they are at is such a beautiful thing, and cheering each other on. Um, it touches into so many different aspects of us, and I I do value my health. I do value being strong, in the physical sense as well. We mentioned the mental sense, but it's also a beautiful emotional safe place, right? Um, this current environment that we're in is incredibly taxing for everyone, mentally, physically, emotionally, and we're a long time in now, much less before this scenario of COVID and everyday life. So it's just a place to feel empowered. And like, how good do you feel, Nadine, when you know, make that lift or hit that weight you didn't think? And it's powerful, especially as a woman.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that there are so many lessons to be learned from it, and it's continual, which is, I always say that our health is a lifetime pursuit. Taking care of ourselves is a lifetime pursuit, and there's always something to be learned from it. And I think, I have been doing CrossFit for a long time and haven't competed, or been as serious about it for a long time, since I had kids, really. But you learn something new about yourself, because I used to obsess about it, obsess about the numbers, and now it's like a celebration of being able to move and still being able to do it, beyond motherhood. And now that my kids are older, that, I'm in a place where I can push it along a little bit more, and that's become a bit more of a focus, whereas it just changes and evolves, but you learn a lot about yourself. You hear a lot of it's an opportunity to hear self-talk.
Yes.
The inner coach.
Yes. Oh,
or the inner
that.
critic.
I think, yeah.
They're prevalent. They're prevalent in those environments. But once you hit the clock and there's that 10-second countdown and you have to go, you are just in that moment. You're not. All of those things get put on hold, and then at the other end you're like, glad you did it, even though you were maybe dreading it.
And you're sitting in a sweat puddle. You touched upon two really beautiful things there, Nadine. Actually, that would be. I love how you put it. It was like health is a lifetime pursuit.
Yeah,
because especially as women, we're always shifting. At such a micro level, if you think about our hormonal shifts over a month, right? And how we have to listen and honor our bodies based on that, because we are never static. And then you think about the lifetime of things, right? There was a time where we didn't have children, could do a certain thing, had children. And I mean, the female body, for being able to create, grow, deliver, and feed a life, it's a profound miracle.
Well, what astounds me as well is when, sorry to interrupt, as a girl, you were born with all of your eggs ready to make more lives. And because when you have girls, you're not just growing a baby, you're growing the next generation. Like, it's
Exactly.
pretty mind-blowing, really.
Just a small responsibility,
Yeah,
right?
just a small one.
Just a small one. And then you get postpartum and all that. But I wish you brought up a beautiful point, was the ego work that happens in this, because you are so face to face. I spoke about being in a community environment, right? You're seeing what other women are lifting, and people who are further along in their fitness journey. How can you not compare? Or you want to get a certain skill set, like butterfly pull-ups, and there's a bit of insecurity that comes with it. But you're right, that clock goes off and then it's just pure presence.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it, because that's your isness, and it's rep for rep for rep. And for 1 hour of your, or no, actually
Could be
a WOD's usually like, it could be 8, the longest 8 of your life, anywhere from 8 to, if you're
30.
really cruel, it's 30. you are, and it's such a gift to be with yourself. Yes.
All right. We could talk about that lots more.
Yes.
We could confuse a few people who don't do CrossFit.
Yes, so just so we know, it's actually like not they're like, what, and yes, and that can be applied to any sport, that can be applied to any physical practice. Yes. Embodied movement.
Okay, motherhood. How's that going for you? How old are your children?
Yes, they're alive, so it's going well. And
that's right. That's how it goes, right?
I've managed to sustain life. My children are 3 and 6.
Yeah, okay.
Excuse me.
What do you think, how has your life changed? Like, I know that you've spoken briefly about your divorce, so obviously that was something that you've had to go through post children, but how aside from that, how would you say your life has changed? What's different? Do you feel different? Has it been, we've all had the ups and downs that come with it, right?
Yeah.
And I know that you've done a lot of work, which we'll talk about in your journey, but what's it done for you? This thing called motherhood.
This thing called motherhood. I don't know about you or for all the other mothers out there, whether you biologically produced a child or are a mother in other means, if you adopted, or if you're a fur baby mom, that's beautiful too. The biggest thing that I came into was boundaries. When I became a mother, I learned how to say no.
Oh, interesting.
And
to your children or to other things in your life?
To others. Notably, to old, I suppose, on several levels. I'll break it down. We'll go from the outer and move to the inner. So in an outer circumstance aspect, it would be saying no to people, like, I'm sorry, I can't have that visit because I'm absolutely exhausted. The baby didn't sleep, and sorry, you can't come over and visit. It's not a good time. And to say no to other people was humongous, because it really threatened the people pleasing aspect of myself.
Okay.
Where I fear that if I don't say yes to you, and I risk losing you. I risk losing the friendship. I risk losing the love. I have to be available when you're available, that's deeply rooted. And also even being able to say no to my family. sorry, you can't come over every day to see the baby because I know you're really excited, but this is not a good time. And that was a humongous ancestral and generational disentanglement, because there's so much layered underneath that. Like I'm Chinese, so to say no to your parents all of a sudden makes you a bad daughter. Wow. You're not, yes, you're not, you're rejecting your family, you're not complying, it's really disrespectful to your elders, etc. And there was so much that came up with my own mother wound once I had children that has been a really crunchy and painful process, yet healing, because I am putting a stop to generational patterns and trauma and setting something new for myself and for my children epigenetically. I don't know if you know much about epigenetics, but they say when you, sorry, you're about to say?
No. You carry on.
Okay.
I wouldn't be able to describe it clearly.
That's a whole other podcast. But,
oh yeah.
Yes, it is. But when you break generational patterns and reconcile them, you heal up to 7 generations forward and 7 generations back.
Wow.
You change at a cellular level, and so do your children, and it's really beautiful.
And I know epigenetics from a biological point of view, in terms of, when people say that if your parents had an illness, then genetically you would be more predisposed. But we now know that we have the power through our behaviors and our patterns to switch those genes off. And I'm living proof.
Yes.
Yeah, switch those genes off. It's not like your destiny to be your parents.
Yes. Thank you so much for saying that. And you initiate new ones or other ones.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's so beautiful. So yes, that was like a big takeaway from becoming a mother. And and then we were talking about boundaries from an external perspective. And the fierceness that you probably, all moms can speak to this, of what you would go to protect your child. Like I would get in front of a moving car, and just put my arm out to stop it if my child was in the way. Like find this superhuman mama bear determination within us when it comes to our child. And I think it can only be awoken when something comes into your life that reveals that amount of unconditional love within us. So that was very empowering at the same time, but also very crunchy with my family and within myself as well. Just as a recovering perfectionist, to put some healthy boundaries around myself, of not expecting to have to do everything and perfectly, and letting things go to the wayside so long as the child is alive and you're alive. Okay, you've done your job.
Yep. I said that to my husband the other day. I was like, I'm pretty good with boundaries as well. And I think even boundaries around how much I will do around the home. If there's mess, but people are happy and fed, and I don't want to clean up, I'm not going to clean up. It's not that, it's not I've come to realize that my life isn't defined by how tidy my house is. But that was high on the expectations when I was a kid. You had to have your room tidy or you'd get in trouble. You had to fold your clothes and or if there was big trouble. So letting go of that stuff and just going, no, actually those things aren't important to me, and it doesn't define who I am or whether I'm good or bad. It's,
you're not failing.
It sounds so silly, doesn't it? But that is a kind of boundary.
Yes, it is. Well, we live in the society of do, right? What do you do? And when you're speaking to coworkers, like, it's always a competition to see who's the busiest and what their projects are, etc. What are you accomplishing? What do you have to show for it? And we start falling into sort of, I'll call it pink and blue roles, right? When you're the primary caregiver at home, and then your partner is out there as the provider and working, and falls into the male role. And it was really, and on that, it was really interesting because I had a partner that would just ask me all the time when he came home, well, what'd you do today? And there's this sort of like wounding of being a stay-at-home mom that somehow you do less, which is absolute, can I swear on here? Bullshit. It is, right? Like, oh, you just kept the baby alive, that's it, and they don't, there's a misunderstanding as to just like how much that entails. And a byproduct of me wanting to prove my worth through this, and we're talking about boundaries of doing, I would do laundry constantly, because at the end of every day, more than twice a day, because if I didn't have a physical product to show, just like, even if it was tucked away on the side of the couch sitting in a basket folded, I was doing nothing. I had no proof. That's my own responsibility. That was where I felt I had to show my worth as a housewife, right, as a stay-at-home mom. And it put so much pressure on me, because I love that people say, oh, sleep when the baby sleeps. Okay, well, I'll also do laundry when the baby does laundry, and I'll cook when the baby cooks, and I'll get the spit off my clothes when the baby does hers. But it was a stressor, because now you've got a timed thing going through the whole day, literally, and it beeps and it does this while you're trying to breastfeed and learn how to breastfeed, while you're trying to do this, while you're trying to sneak in a bite here and there, or a bathroom break, right? My daughter was a power napper. She'd sleep 45 minutes at a time. So, and that was through the night as well. So it's like, we're so stuck in this physical that we tend to forget our emotional health and our mental health, right, through that. And that was a big lesson, because I had a lot of anxiety because of it.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we could go into that more, couldn't we? I think that, like, before I had kids, both Darren and I worked full time, and I was like, it's going to be a breeze. We'll be fine. I'll work, and you can take care of the baby, and then we'll switch. And it didn't turn out like that. And it wasn't until I'd had a baby that I realized that it was okay just to be a mum, and that being a mum was actually the most difficult job that a woman will ever do. It's the most natural. It's the most natural thing in the world, but it is the most difficult, hands down. Now, I think that is probably a good segue, actually, into this idea that we've had in our conversations previously about returning to ourselves, the journey back to ourselves. And this, you have taken to great lengths to explore all of what that means for you. And I'd love for you to share that with us, because you're becoming a healer. well, you're already a healer, right? It's
Yes.
part of who you are, but you're learning how to do it professionally. Would I be right in saying that?
Agreed. Yes. I mean, and it's very esoteric, and like in its most esoteric sense, a healer. Yes. And I'm coming into it with, I suppose, to serve my purpose on this earth in this lifetime, to help others along the healing path. And what that looks like right now is I am a Reiki practitioner, an intuitive healer, also studying to become an advanced Akashic healing practitioner. However, I would assert that that's just a modality, and there's so many ways we could do that. And I'll be getting into personal coaching space. I'm writing a book. You'll also see me on a TEDx stage. The possibilities are endless. In the end, it comes back, it boils down to a journey for all of us to come back to self-love, self-compassion, and self-acceptance. And looking at our wounds, some of them ours, a lot of them not.
Can I,
Right.
before we go any deeper, can I ask you, because I don't know that we necessarily recognize that we might need this. Would you agree with that? Like, we all have our own, I know we all have our own stories, internal dialogue, experiences that make us the people that we become, or one of the layers or facets of the people we become. But if we want to really get to the depths of who we are, you know, amidst all of the expectations and the mothering and those things, how would you suggest that someone might say, I need to do that?
Yes.
Or that it's important to do it?
What's beneath the noise, right? And our external circumstances.
Yeah.
There's a few ways by which you could do this. I mean, and two, let's preclude this with the recognition that our subconscious drives the bus 95% of the time, right? It's a survival mechanism of our brains, and to conserve energy and to be able to manage our days. That subconscious is though being driven by a set of core beliefs that were, I suppose, passed down to us at a young age. So that's where we start to pick apart this and understand. And I mean, I said there's a few ways to coming to this awareness that we have to take responsibility for our own wounds. The first way and the easiest is to have a huge shattering, which I did.
When everything feels like it's falling apart, it's time to rebuild,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Well, and it does fall apart, and we find ourselves utterly and in the most painful way scattered, the pieces of us everywhere. And it's usually through different circumstances, if that's mental breakdowns or the loss of things like a relationship or home or addiction or family. There's so many ways. And the thing is, like, it's always there. And so that's like at a very deep level. And you have it, but they're actually quite beautiful because that's life removing for you that which isn't meant for you to make room for what is. But we so desperately cling on to the vase and try not to drop it. And because it contains everything, and we have our attachments in there, we have our relationships in there, and our things in there, our homes, our jobs, our our identities. And it's a very noble cause to try and understand this vase and who you are within it. But sometimes you're meant for something bigger, and you've outgrown the space. That's at a big level. At a more everyday level, I would say, look at what your triggers are. The reason why you're super impatient in traffic, the reason why, and I shouldn't say you, I should say we, the reason why a certain interaction with a person really bothers you and gets under your skin, like, oh, that person was so rude, how dare they? The things that bring up your shadow, which is the parts of us that we don't like to look at, and we tend to reject and push away. The reason why the relationships with our mothers can be incredibly strained, right? Or the same fight that you have with your partner over and over and over again. It's all ego. So, and we all have one, and it's not a bad thing. It has a purpose. It serves a purpose. But the truth of it, you need to dig a little further down to understand your shadow and your light, and not to reject any of it. There's so much beauty in radical acceptance of all parts of you, because we're not perfect either. You know, do you ever notice, okay, when you're driving, and this was a challenge put forward by David Foster Wallace. If you ever get a chance to watch This Is Water, I think it's called This Is Water. Do you ever notice when you're driving, audience, that everyone who's driving faster than you is a maniac, and everyone who's driving slower than you is an idiot?
Classic.
Why do you have to be so right? Everyone,
do you know that something that you said, reflecting on why you might feel angry at someone or in traffic, or what bothers you. And one thing that I've personally noticed is I am more likely in my head to think of someone and perhaps judge them or try and find fault in them when I'm feeling dissatisfied with where I'm at. You know, if things don't feel like they're going right for me, then it's very easy for me to go, oh, well, you know, so and so, you know, in my head, you know.
Oh, yes.
On social media, whatever it is, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
But when I'm feeling satisfied and in my groove, I couldn't care less about what anyone else is doing. It's really interesting. Yeah, that sort of stuff is interesting observation.
How we project our own inadequacies onto our external circumstance.
Yeah.
You know, which is such a human thing to do. So I think you nailed it. It's like, whatever your scenario, when you find yourself doing that, you're being called to look at yourself with the utmost kindness, loving kindness, with the utmost respect, and a bit of curiosity, because we're so easy to judge, we're so easy to label, we're so easy to be really hard and criticize ourselves. But you go, okay, what's really happening here, and what parts of myself do I need to love a little more?
We're getting close to the end of our hour, and
God, okay.
I know. Like, I'm not in any particular rush, but I just wanted to bring our attention to that. I was going to say one thing before asking you a little bit more about how your healing practice works, okay? And what it might look like for someone if they wanted to explore healing. But one thing I would like to say, and I'm sure you have something to add, is that I think that sometimes we may also think, well, I don't need it. I'm all right getting on with the things that I'm doing. But that the way, if we can understand more about ourselves, then the way that we teach our children to explore those ideas, to love themselves more, we can observe how our behavior might be reflected on, how we might be reflecting onto them. What sort, would you agree with that?
Yes, agreed, because you're also teaching them about self-care, which we as women always put to the wayside. And yes, beautiful to have a bubble bath or a pedicure here and there, which does count as self-care, but I want to boil it down to self-care on a soul level, on a heart space level, because we could all use work there. And if the voice is, well, I don't need it, I'm getting on fine, I go, okay, how's that working out for you? Because, and I don't mean to say that with any judgment at all. They also may not be in that space that calls for it. Like, I find that things usually have to get to extremes, because where we sit at, at a soul level, right, at an emotional level, drives our thoughts, and our thoughts drive our actions. So what are you really looking at here? What's the root of everything? And the things you don't take care of and that we push down and suppress, I don't need it, I'm fine, let's go, let's sweep it under the rug, that will manifest in the physical body at some point. It always shows up in the physical last. And that's when it gets our attention. And that's when we tend to go, oh God, I have to take care of myself, right? Because things aren't functioning anymore, or there's a lot of pain. You're just not well. So it's really important to have the physical aspect. And as we started this whole conversation with, but there's so many layers to us that deserve our care, that deserve nourishment. And this would be, I would assert, the most important one, because you choose from this space. You choose from here. Are you in reaction or are you in choice? We're mostly in reaction, right? Do you work out because you hate your body, or do you work out because you love your body? Right? And how do those results come and differ when you come from those two spaces? You're so worth it.
Yeah. And I think that like, going back to that, how those feelings and experiences manifest in the physical body, it's about our behaviors in other areas, right? So the food we choose to eat, whether we choose to exercise or not, like that's kind of like the things that can compound to make it an external, as well as all of the emotional stuff. Like, I'm totally down with the how we manifest ailments and sickness. But that kind of those thoughts and feelings are often associated with making choices that aren't as favorable for us.
It's all one ball of twine.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
And not to put on pressure on anyone out there because they feel like they have to get all areas of their life like perfect. it just has to start. It's like running, you know, or anything. It's like, you don't have to move fast. You just have to move. You have to have the intention to move.
Take the first step.
Take the first step. And there's, the minute you say yes to that, life, universe, whatever you want to call it, you're sending out that message that I'm ready. And I want to go in this direction. It will do everything it can with so much love to support this endeavor, right? It will meet you where you're at. So, and the same thing for the toxic stuff. If you're stuck in that, and what's the word? Blank thoughts, invasive thoughts, incessant thoughts, right? You are also sending that vibration and that message out there to life to go like, well, this is all I want to focus on. This is all I want to do. So you're right. It's always just about intention and taking the first step towards health and healing. It may look like this on a internal level. It may look like that on choosing to go to your first exercise class. It's all intention again. So I sort of answered your question, but I didn't. But
that's okay.
Yeah.
If someone was going to work with you, what does it mean to work with a healer? Like, are you a hands-on healer? Are you a counselor? Is it a combination of both?
Yes, beautiful.
What does it mean?
Yes. Oh, it's so exciting, because it's really about meeting the person where they're at. And I mean, in terms of my Reiki practice, it is hands-on. I get them down on the massage table and they have a beautiful hour with me. And in that practice, I pick up on things that are happening in their body. They just come forward. And then we discuss it after. And that's more of like an intuitive sense and an intuitive session. I'm also equal parts, all the things that we described before. I'm also a mystic. Yes, divine feminine. Yes, all that woo-woo. There's yes, all that beautiful universal life force energy and our soul's blueprint on this earth. So there's also so much healing to come through in terms of that. So in a very spiritual sense, I'll put it that way. So I have that as well. And I act as a conduit, we'll call it. I'm here in service as the hollow bone, as they call it in shamanism, to just channel that which wants to come from the universe for you through me into this plane of existence, into human language and form, because we are also loved and we are also supported. You have no idea, my gosh. And it's about elevating yourself to the next level, spiritually. And for how I work is more so in the etheric body, in the spiritual sense. I also can do remote healings for the people who aren't in this part of the world, for an Akashic Records reading, or card pulling, that kind of thing as well. It's about a connection, really. It's the person has to be open and want the healing. It just happens to come through this modality.
Yeah. So when you channel energy, do you then deliver it? How do you deliver it to the other person? Is it verbally? Is it physically? Is it? I'm not trying to steal your tricks or anything.
No, please. We need more of this in the world, my loves. We need more. And I don't care about your gender. I don't care about it. We are meant to be here as unconditionally loving beings, and it all starts with yourself.
I don't have an agenda.
Well,
other than that, I believe
yes.
that what you do is an important part of
Thank you.
health. And yeah.
Well, and that's why I say unconditional love, because we can love with an agenda, right? We can love with an intention to give love, but sometimes there might be something beneath that about how we want to receive it. If it is unconditional, there is no agenda. It is love for love's sake, which is everyone's birthright. Absolutely everyone on this earth. How I have my gifts. So I am intuitive, and I don't know if you've heard of the clairs. No. There's clairvoyance, you know.
I didn't know they were called the clairs.
The clairs, yes. You're like, oh, eclairs? Did someone say pastries? I do feed my clients after the fact, because we're moving energy. That would be the mother in me. We do move energy. There is a lot of shift that happens for them. So it's like bringing them back into their bodies, and we have some beautiful chocolates and cookies, and we discuss over tea. And essentially, of the clairs, there's like a one that's clairvoyance, which is the most common. You can see things. There's clairsentience, which is to feel sensations on your body. Clairaudience, clair, and I forget what they're called, but you can smell, you can taste, right? You get into all your senses. So my top three would be clairvoyance, clairsentience, and of course claircognizance, which is you just know. And the thing is, so I get an image, a scene, almost like from a movie, and in that scene there are so many messages embedded. It's like all layered, but in one condensed piece. Excuse me. Something's coming forward.
Okay.
You might get a reading in this. Yeah, surprise! There's a surprise healing at the end of this. And then it is my function and job to break down that scene into human language and articulate it to the person. And here's the thing, I'm going out on a huge limb here, saying these things. Like, someone could absolutely ask, like, are you crazy? I could be so off. I could completely miss the mark. And I can tell you today that I haven't yet. It's very symbolic, and though it may not speak like literally to a situation, it actually resonates with the person at a deeper level. Like I've described to someone a scene, and they dreamt it the other night, and it's been a recurring dream for them. I would have no idea that would happen. Or I can describe things and a message with them, and someone will say, oh yeah, that's my mother. I haven't spoken to them in a year. It's really interesting. And so I have to trust what I'm getting and my capabilities. And I do. I know when I'm in, like, when you're in the zone, it, you're in the groove, in flow state, versus grasping. I never have to grasp. So that's certainly one component. And I can't explain it. It's something I had as a child, because I am a highly sensitive being with a fuck ton of compassion. Yeah, she did.
She dropped the F-bomb.
She did. I know. It's not a session with me until you hear the F-bomb.
No, you're lucky I haven't had one yet.
Oh, I know. Is it not the most satisfying word to say in the world?
It's one of the ones. Yeah, definitely.
It's just so lovely. It encompasses all the elements, and you get the aggression, and then you get the sexual context, and you get the frustration, all the things. Yes, I always had so much compassion, and I could see people, and I could see their suffering. as a child, and I couldn't understand it. And it was something that was kind of not understood by my parents as well. I was just noted as too sensitive, or, you know, you're just too sensitive, or just forget about it, you know. So I kind of put those away for a long time. But I've re-stepped into this and reclaimed who I am as a healer, to use these gifts and to use this sense of compassion and empathy. Because in the end, any one person, any one soul on this earth, we boil down to our primary needs, and that's to be seen, that's to be loved, and that's to belong. Right? That's all any of us ever wants. So, and you're worthy of it. So I see you, you know, and everyone on this planet has nothing but my love and compassion. They may not align with values or, you know, their actions and things, but at the root of all that stuff, I can see the pain. I can see the suffering. I guess that would be my gift. I can see someone's shadow and how that's driving their behaviors, but I can also see their light. And all I want for anyone is to be their fullest expression, to be free, to be happy. May all beings be happy, you know. That's what I'm here for.
Beautiful. What a wonderful note to end on. Now, obviously, we want to get people able to find you, should they want to find out more or know more, get to know you. How can they do that?
Well, at present, you can find me on the Instaverse. At sacred.lotus.rising. That's my writing account. I have a lot of great content coming that way. I've sort of been quiet for a while and not posting, but there's stuff prepared. And am in the process of launching my website, which is going to be pattysage.com, which goes into, well, just my services, how I might support others on their healing path. There's a booking engine on there, as well as information about all these yummy, juicy things like the divine feminine and the Akashic Records and loving messages. Yes.
I love it. Any closing thoughts? Anything else you'd like to say before we say bid you farewell, my friend?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. This is my first podcast / interview. I am very honored it's with you, beautiful kindred warrior woman spirit. And to everyone who's listening, please just stand in your truth unapologetically.
Lovely.
The world needs it. And all my love to you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Patty. It's so lovely to spend that hour with you. I'm just going to stop recording.